Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi and today we have a team report from the Portland Regional Championships and I am joined by your Portland Regional Champion, Gavin. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Audie. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you back on. It feels like it was yesterday that you got top 8 at EUIC with a brand new innovative Kyogre team and now here you are winning a regional with the Kyogre team. How's it? Four-time regional champion. How's it feel?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Four times is a weird amount to like a weird amount of regional wins. I'm pretty sure someone can fact check me on this. In fact, even if I didn't say that, someone would fact check me on this. I think the only four-time regional winners are me, Zach Drakamp, and Paul Hornack. So,
That's
we're
a
in
name I've
like
never heard of.
you don't know Paul Hornack.
I don't. That sounds. I'm pretty sure that is a basketball player actually.
Makiri, Makiri, NorCal legend.
Oh, I do know. I do know Makiri.
Exactly. The zeroing, the Mr. Banana Grabber.
Okay, now you've
Real
lost
head.
me again.
The Darnell Washington.
Okay, this is this is already going off script. So I'm joined by Gavin Michaels, formerly. How about this angle? Formerly known for playing exclusively Groudon, has now pivoted this generation to exclusively Kyogre and found a lot of success. Why that?
Hey. Yeah, now there we go. I've decided that I'm just the rain guy now, which is kind of funny. Um, I don't know. I think it's just like have to be inherently contrarian with the weather picks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, uh, honestly, for this one, it was really just like after the success I had with Palafin, I was like, well, why not keep the rain mojo going, right? Right.
Yeah.
And like, it
So
wasn't my first choice. I really thought like I'd be using Lunadon in this format no matter what. But like the rain stuff has just worked. So I'm like, okay, screw it. New identity, new persona, new me. I can adopt it.
yeah, and so like I mentioned, you got top 8 at. Hold up, I got the team report pulled up. You can click on this one after you finish watching this one. This team report. You got your team report from top 8 at EUIC with Kyogre. I'm even gonna pull up the Poke Paste just to see how much. Why did you choose to run Kyogre Ice Rider at the Portland Regionals, and how much inspiration did you take from your EUIC team?
Ooh, good question. That's why they pay you the big bucks. Um, I really wanted to use Kyogre no matter what. I went into this format thinking, okay, I think that all reasonably good teams will have at least one of Shadow Rider, Miraidon, Sun Guy, or Kyogre. Um, or Terapagos, I think I said, but I wasn't so sure about Terapagos. Um,
That sounds right.
and no, what's up?
I said that sounds right. You wanted one of the big spread moves.
Yeah. Uh, I think that you need something like that in order to really play around and to like justify using it. I thought Kyogre would be positioned pretty strong heading into Portland, just because everyone was just like on Miraidon for a bit. So it's like I'm like, cool. Everyone will just be trying to like counter the hell out of Miraidon. No one's gonna see Kyogre coming, Which part of why I think it did so well. The reason that Ice Rider is the pair up and not like the swordfish that people were talking about earlier is because Ice Rider is good into it's good into Miraidon, which is necessary in order for the team comp to be stable, right? Like you want to be able to bring both your restricteds to almost every single matchup. I brought it to every single matchup. So it's like you need that restricted thought to be good into Miraidon, and you need it to be good into Zamazenta. That's where the bulky Leech Seed set comes into play, because that entirely flips the matchup against Zamazenta. Otherwise, I don't think you could get away with non-Leech Seed Ice Rider. Well, clearly Carrie did, but I didn't think you could get away with it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, I think you absolutely nailed the meta call. Carrie also, going undefeated all the way to top 4, I believe. Having a great run with a different Kyogre Ice Rider team. And y'all had some very different picks in the last really 3 slots because you both had a Mungus. So talk to me about how you rounded the team out.
Yeah, so I think that like you do use this restricted duo to justify using Amoongus, right? There's never going to be a better spot for an Amoongus than a team that has Trick Room and has Rain, right? Because you shut off like you get rid of like half of Amoongus's problems, right?
Hmm.
So that was like sort of necessary. The other slots were sort of rotating around. I thought that you need a water type on a Kyogre team in order to justify using it, right? Like you need something to abuse Swift Swim. Otherwise, the team just like doesn't put on like you need a go button to like really take advantage of everything. In my mind, there are two choices for the go mon. There could be more. Someone could bust out a Kabutops and just go crazy with it. That'd be cool. But in my mind, the real options were Urshifu and Basculegion. I ended up going with Basculegion because I realized with a Life Orb set, Basculegion is a lot stronger into Miraidon. And also it's like into Koraidon and hell, even Zamazenta. I really liked its matchup spread. The only thing you felt like I was really giving up was Terapagos and matchup into Sash Calyrex. Like that matchup gets totally flipped. But besides that, oh, and Chen Pao, it felt like the right decision because it's strong and people have Urshifu counters built in. No one in their right mind has a Basculegion counter built into it, you know? So I don't know. Like it felt like it was justification of the rain.
Hmm.
The Grimmsnarl and Fluttermane are mostly there to give me more modes to play with, right? They are support Pokemon that do very different things. Grimmsnarl is just like, hey, what if I got my screens up? It has Sucker Punch solely to like pretend to help in the Koraidon Shadow Rider matchup, which didn't matter. It didn't not matter, and I did have it for that reason, but it's kind of goofy, right?
Hmm.
And the Fluttermane is sort of a catch-all, useful Pokemon. I think Sash Fluttermane is really good because you're always going to be able to get some value out of it. Like, unless they got like a Rillaboom Shadow Rider lead, you can pretty safely lead Fluttermane and at least be doing something during the game. It's like there's a lot of value in just a guaranteed something.
Yeah. And I mean, I talked to you about this team a little bit before Milwaukee regionals. I know. I pulled up Nails' team sheet because
Mhm.
I know he was your guinea pig at Milwaukee, slightly
Yeah.
different version, earlier version of the team. Um, with Urshifu over the Basculegion, like you said. Um, but yeah, I think you were telling me that like I think Kyogre's one of the biggest issues with Kyogre is generally Koraidon. The matchup generally is negative, and so you need like single best mon into Koraidon. And you were saying that is Fluttermane, and even on other teams, you were saying yeah,
Yeah.
if you have a Koraidon problem, just put the Sash Fluttermane on. It's the single best Pokemon into that team.
And I think that that's right. Like, it even into all the different variants, right? Like you can taunt their annoying support Pokemon, like a Brute Bonnet. Like a Brute Bonnet that's taunted is like an angel without its wings, right? Or
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, Shadow Rider can be annoying, but if you have the sun up, right, then all of a sudden Fluttermane's faster and you're threatening into that. And it's just really good into all of the partners there. So no, absolutely. Like Fluttermane is, in my opinion, the nuts versus Sun. And I think you saw it of like I think I played like I think I was undefeated against the Sun stuff that I played.
Yeah, it looks like it. All three,
Yeah,
all four of
it's
them, five of them. There's the Groudon there too.
yeah, it's just really helpful, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, no, couldn't recommend it enough.
Yeah. And so with that, talk me through the Pokemon in your team, why they have the. I know you're a big vibes EV spreader. Talk to me about the EV spreads, the Terra types, and the movesets.
Sure. So let's go with Kyogre first because that really is like the focal point of the team. So its speed stat is, I believe, 137 to allow it to outrun the base 135 guys when they're at -1. So that means that I can lead Fluttermane Kyogre, click Icy Wind Water Spout, and the worst case is I'm getting a speed tie. And oftentimes you don't need to because they'll just attack the Fluttermane anyways. Like literally against Miraidon teams, I would lead Fluttermane Kyogre and just say, "There's no world that you're Volt switching Kyogre right now, right?" Because like I'm threatening a Protect, I'm threatening a Terra Grass, I'm threatening all of this shit. It's like really gonna go and like risk the game on just Volt switching Kyogre right now? Nah. And even if you do, cool, I'm right half the time anyways. And like I can't express enough just like how much pressure like that puts onto everything. Um Also in the Kyogre mirror, whichever Kyogre is faster tends to win that. Mainly just because the extra damage you get from water spouts really racks up over time.
Hmm.
I decided to go with triple water move Kyogre because Ice Beam is fake. Like, if you look at it, Ice Beam is only barely stronger into the stuff it's supposed to be hitting, right? Like, a Calic Ice Beam versus Water Spout into a Rillaboom or an Amoonguss, Ice Beam will do barely more and you don't even get to hit the other guy. So it's like, why do that when you can have Hydro Pump and just like have a big gun on you to like do a ton of damage to Zamazenta, or it's like you need to like pick up a KO on an Iron Hands or something like that. So in my head, like triple water move Kyogre was a no brainer.
Yeah,
Um,
that was something that I think Carrie also dropped Ice Beam. He was running Thunder, but I think both of y'all
yeah,
had Hydro Pump, and so it was a kind of question of Origin Pulse or Thunder. Um, in that last slot on this team, it does make a lot of sense that when you have a Calyrex Ice, you really don't need the Ice move as well.
yeah, exactly. Like it lets you have enough for it. But also, funny enough, that also is, in my opinion, why you run Terra Grass on Kyogre is so that you can sit in front of Amoonguss, right?
Hmm.
Amoonguss Kyogre is a really annoying lead for opposing Amoonguss, right? Just because it's like, if I Terra Grass, they're not able to do anything. They cannot affect change on the board, right? And if you're not threatening the kill on Amoonguss, you kind of need to have that. Otherwise, it just like gets too strong into you. So I think Terra Grass is sort of, I would call it mandatory on Kyogre. Unless you're running like a super offensive like Choice Scarf, Terra Water, I think you got to run Terra Grass on it. Um, I think the other interesting Terra is Fairy on Fluttermane. Terra Fairy Fluttermane will one hit KO low bulk Miraidon with Moonblast, which means you at least put the fear of God into them, which is good enough. Because if they Terra, all of a sudden they're weak to the water moves, anyways. Which so they really want to avoid terroring for as long as possible. And if you can just force them to turn one, that's just huge value. I
Hmm.
think that it's way more useful on to like just get that extra bit of range than like Terra Normal, for example. Uh Basculegion, sort of a similar story with Terra Ghost. Terra Ghost Last Respects with two friends dead will always one hit KO Miraidon. And everything else for that matter. Everything will die. Like, don't believe me, Calcut. It's dead. And it's like just giving yourself that little bit of extra range just unlocks a lot. On this pace that I gave, this is funny actually. So the Grimmsnarl's Terra Ghost here, I used Terra Steel at Portland because I ran out of Ghost Terra shards. And like
Hmm.
I I never Terra'd Grimmsnarl anyways, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't like
Well, you never Terra Steeled it. You might have Terra Good.
yeah, I was like, whatever, I'll just like put it on there. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And I was like, I just didn't want to like spend like an extra hour grinding for Ghost Terra shards for my Grimmsnarl. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably. I got to imagine it's the mon that Terra's the least on your team.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever Terra'd it. Everything else Terra's a decent amount. It's pretty equitable
Hmm.
otherwise. Which like I like with Terra. Like I don't like playing with the big Terra hogs. So it's like being able to Terra basically everything just I think gives a lot of flexibility. It's just like you make your opponent think about a lot more stuff and that like opens up mistakes.
Did you feel like? So I definitely feel like some teams have very dedicated Terras. I think about all the Calyrex
Mhm.
Shadow Mirrors that we saw at Bologna Regionals, and how the Terra Dark Calyrex Shadows had to Terra in that matchup. So even though they had other options for terastallizing, they were kind of forced to Terra that one particular Pokemon in that one matchup. Did you feel like your team also had that where you see a matchup and you're like, well, I always have to Terra this one Pokemon, even though
No.
no, you didn't.
No. There's certain like times where I would like lead something and know, okay, if they bring this, then I have to Terra. Like in finals versus Ja, right? when he led Chiyu Calyrex Shadow Rider into my Ice Rider, I was like, I need to Terra Fairy here, otherwise like the game is over. So it's like sometimes you do that without like thinking,
Mhm.
and it's like you know that there's some Terras that like in a given situation you are going to click, but it's like I think it's just being having the situational awareness of when to Terra as opposed to like, well, against Calyrex Shadow Rider, I will always Terra Dark my Amoonguss because they'll never see it coming.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
makes sense.
that's how I feel about it.
Did you? I don't think you talk about why Terra Fairy on Calyrex Ice.
Oh, that and the EVs are both vibes generally just good. I think the big reason to go Terra Fairy over Terra Water, right, is that I didn't like the weaknesses it gave me to things like Rillaboom and to Miraidon. It just felt punish like I felt like Terra Water had more upside, but it could also be punished a lot harder than Terra Fairy because there's not a lot of strong like poison and steel type moves running around right now. So it felt a lot easier and consistent to just say, "Hey, Terra Fairy, I will live the double up anyways. Who cares if that's at like 50% HP or 1% HP in 3 turns? That's going to be 50% HP anyways." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because Calyrex heals like crazy. uh, so yeah, that was the big motivation there. I could definitely see Terra Water on Calyrex. I wouldn't fault anyone for going for that, but I enjoyed Terra Fairy for getting rid of pins that my opponents could have.
Yeah, I think that most people, from what I saw, were Terra Water. I'm kind of scrolling through. What were the other? I should probably pull up me
I think
scrolling
Carrie was
through
Terra Grass.
the Stalroth. Oh my god, it's bugging out. Um, do you see Terry was Terra Grass, which is interesting because
Yeah.
also Terra Grass and Kyogre as well, right? All right, this is clearly not working. But yeah, no, I definitely think that Terra Fairy makes a lot of sense. I think yeah, when you're running Leech Seed, a very neutral Terra type does seem to make a lot of sense there. Talk to me about how to play the team. What were your common game plans? Did you have any like modes that you like? Did you have any modes, or did you have like specific game plans into specific teams that you expected to face, or was it kind of just vibes? What was your? How did you approach the tournament?
Yeah. My philosophy for this tournament was I want to bring Kyogre and Calyrex Ice Rider to every single game.
Okay.
Like, no matter what, I just think that, like, I will find a way to make it work, even if it seems like something is useless. I do not want to leave my stats at home, you know?
Mm-hmm.
With that, I think came sort of interesting, like, role expectations, right? I would oftentimes just try to, like, bring, like, if I was bringing a Pokemon, it would either come in the lead or in the back. A lot of time, like Fluttermane was almost always a lead. Basculegion was almost always in the back, unless I was trying to do something very specific. Um, and I had I had just general approaches for things. Like, for example, into the vast majority of Miraidon teams, right? I would lead Fluttermane, Ice Rider with Rain and back, and by Rain and back I mean Kyogre, Basculegion.
Mm-hmm.
Of just like overdoing enough testing, I found that that was very stable. And frankly, the Flutterman Ice Rider lead is incredibly stable into so many different things. I love that thing. Um, so I thought that was really good. Um, against opposing Kyogre teams, I would really default to like Kyogre Among Us, but like it's like all game plans are like you need to be able to mix it up somewhat. In fact, I would actually say one thing I did really good this tournament was hard reading my opponent's leads. Very often, like people will have the safe or default mode into a matchup, and where that's like, and you can kind of tell what that is ahead of time, mostly from just like if you get enough reps in specific team archetypes, you can kind of tell.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can just get that advantage from the get go, it helps so much. So a lot of times I would be going for specific counter leads, but if I didn't have a counter lead, I was probably gonna do like let's say default mode, one of the restricteds and one of Fluttergrim Amoonguss as the partner, then in back Kyogre, and then probably Basculegion, but sometimes Amoonguss, right? And that's like in general, like all game plans kind of flow from there. I did have a lot of specific game plans I was going for though. Like when I say with like a more broader approach, there's like specific in-game game plans that like I'd be looking to. For example, I would be lining up the Basculegion sweep pretty constantly of like what do I need to get rid of for Basculegion to like just run through this game. And oftentimes that'd be like getting rid of focus sashes. It would be doing things like setting up rain, letting Kyogre die, having Basculegion put on pressure for a bit, and then being able to trick room on the last turn of rain so that Basculegion is just always threatening like massive damage. It could be setting up for an endgame of Amoonguss or Kyogre, right? Because like Amoonguss Kyogre can be really hard to stop in an endgame.
Hmm.
And it's like, I think, or sometimes it's even just like saying like, Calyrex Ice Rider wins now. You got leech seeded too many times, Buster, you're done for. I think those are the three main win cons that I was looking to. And I was trying to be aware of like basically making a mental checklist in each matchup of what do I need to accomplish in order for this win con to work, and then playing pretty hard for it.
Yeah. That's interesting to hear, and it's so different than what the like Calyrex Ice game plans in the past have looked like. I feel like, which but yeah, I think that especially Leech Seed really changes the way that Pokemon plays. And I guess I do want to touch on that too, because I feel like Leech Seed. I think Darsh was the first person to really popularize it at Milwaukee. We saw a bunch of it at Japan Nationals. Like I mentioned, I know Nails kind of trial run this team for you, and he was on Leech Seed, and you were like at the very top of the ladder before Milwaukee
Mm-hmm.
regionals with this team as well. Uh, did you come up with that originally? And how's your team evolved
No.
since you originally built it in Milwaukee?
I cannot claim credit for Leech Seed Calyrex. I stole that from Dawe.
Okay.
Dawe was like really big on Leech Seed Ice Rider, and I thought like it would be really cool specifically with Kyogre, right? So like since like I think after Atlanta, I just focused on Reg-Eye. And like after spitballing a bunch of like Kyogre partners, the Leech Seed Calyrex Ice Rider was really the one that stuck because of that. So shout out to Dahlway for the original inspo. They were like prepping for Milwaukee with like Ice Rider, Ho-Oh, all that stuff. Didn't you? I think Alex. I think they lost to Alex ultimately, right?
Yep.
Something like that.
Lost to Alex and
Yeah.
cut.
So it's like yeah. So it's like that was like a parallel approach of the Ice Rider, basically. But I think like the Leech Seed Ice Rider was getting more popular, like even before Milwaukee, among like Japanese and Chinese players. So I just kind of yoinked it. I think I might have been one of the first people to like combine the Kyogre with the Leech Seed Ice Rider, but yeah.
Yeah. And so, given that you had most of this team ready before the first regional, and then you had to wait until the essentially the third regional weekend of the format. Um, obviously, you changed some of the moves and changed one of the Pokemon. But how much did you feel like actually changed over that time period, and how much did how did your prep go between Milwaukee and Portland?
Honestly, the game plans changed so much. It went from a team where I think Leech Seed was the primary win con to being a tertiary one. Of like previously, I would be leading Grimmsnarl Amoonguss a lot of time with Kyogre, Ice Rider, and back, and just like straight up war of attritioning my opponents.
Hmm.
But Basculegion just makes it so that you don't have to, right? Like you have another like win con that's really consistent. Because the problem with the Urshifu is like in the end game, it was hard for it to clean up because it would just like get faked out, you know?
Right.
Um, so I think that like how I viewed the team changed over time more than the team itself, if that makes sense. So it's like Grimmsnarl went from like the Keymon to maybe the least important Pokemon.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's interesting how that one bond change for your water type sweeper made it so you could bring it so much more often.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't think Urshifu was bringable into Miraidon. And it's like if you're not able to bring your water abuser, which is the point of Kyogre, right? Like, or at least I think it is, then it's like, and Miraidon was like the majority of Milwaukee, right? Then it felt like, what is the point of Kyogre? And I think like Basculegion says, hey, this is the point, double fish.
Hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And with that, let's talk about your experience at the tournament. So
Yeah.
you went you went 6-2 day one, and then one out from there. Talk
Yeah.
to me a little bit about your tournament experience and a few of the highlight matches that you played.
Yeah. So after round one, had a freak out because I thought I had entered my Calyrex Ice Rider speed stat wrong into RK9. I like, had a moment just sitting there for like, oh my god, I think I accidentally bottle capped its speed stat, and then I didn't update that in RK9. It just turns out I didn't do that. Like, it was fine. But I had a moment of panic because I was looking, okay, I'll go up to the judge and tell him about it, and it'll be fine. I won't get a loss or anything. And then they're like, come around round one saying, like, hey, random team check for you guys on round one. And I'm freaking out of like, oh my God, am I going to lose my Ice Rider after like 3 minutes? So like I'm begging the judges, and then it just turns out like I just misremembered doing the like bottle cap thing to begin with. So it's like crazy because I realized I had played the global challenge with freaking zero attack IV on my Calyrex. Because like I don't know, guess I just like IV'd the wrong one of them.
Hmm.
Like the Calyrex, I think I IV'd the horse instead of the Calyrex or something like that, or bottle capped it. So it just like didn't go through. So yeah, let's say some early panic, but I think that the first day I wasn't playing as sharply. One thing I think that's funny is losing against Ben and then winning against Chemo when they were running the same team.
Hmm.
And that was just like me taking time to like learn this matchup of goddamn motherfucking Glamora, for lack of a better term. Because it ended up doing the Glim actually ended up being like pretty annoying, honestly, because most of the time I would default to like Fluttermane Ice Rider, right? But I was doing the math in my head of like, oh my god, this doesn't work nearly as cleanly when the Ice Rider just loses the 1v1 to their Ice Rider when I'm poisoned.
Hmm.
So I ended up like kind of freaking out about that and then tried some heinously bad ideas like into Ben. Like I was trying like a Moongus in this matchup in order to absorb the toxic debris. That wasn't necessary. No one wanted to see that. Um then end up realizing like later on after thinking about the matchup that Fluttermane Kyogre was much stronger as a lead into a lot of this stuff. And I think like that let me turn it into a pretty positive matchup. Yeah, set versus Chemo was super close. I think I needed to hit a Hydro at the end of it. I had kind of a. I remember there being a cool sequence of gosh, what was it? It was 80% Iron Hands, low Calyrex versus my low HP, uh, low HP Ice Rider and Kyogre. And I remember Hydro pumping the Iron Hands Trick Rooming with my Calyrex, barely living. And then the Miraidon was in back. And then I Origin Pulse, Reverse Trick Room as a Calyrex their Calyrex protected to try to like get a single target Glacial Lance on me. So I like ended up winning by clicking Trick Room twice, 2 turns in a row, which I thought was like very funny. Yeah, no, so this was interesting. Definitely some of the like honestly I played a lot more Miraidon early than late. People just seem to like forget it eventually.
Yeah, well,
Um,
also Miraidon had a pretty poor showing this tournament, so and it was number one in usage going into the tournament, so that's not too surprising.
yeah. My matchup versus Tyler was hard. I ended up winning game one, and then like Tyler's just like, "Hey, if I lead Roaring Wind Kyogre and my Kyogre is faster than your Kyogre, what can you do exactly?" And I'm like, "That is a great question, sir. Thank you for asking that. I so appreciate your time." And I couldn't figure it out. You know,
Hmm.
game three, I just like end up leading something stupid. I think I just led Basculegion because I miscalculated, and then I sit there and I'm like, "Wait a minute, Roaring Wind's just faster than Basculegion and Rain." And then my entire like thing that I was thinking of just didn't work at all. I think with the benefit of hindsight, I think screens could have been really strong into here and just playing it super slow, lead Grimmsnarl Ice Rider, light screen protect, get up a reflect, just chill for a bit. But I think like I let my inexperience with this matchup show.
Hmm.
And that's one thing I noticed this tournament is that like once I got experience versus a matchup, I was able to play like much better against it. But it's like for the first time ever seeing a team like it, I was kind of guessing for a lot of it.
So,
Uh,
knowing
yeah.
what you know now, I know you did beat Carry later on, but given that Kyogre had such a huge spike in usage at this tournament and, presumably after this tournament, would you make any changes to the team knowing that you're going to face a lot more Kyogre in the future?
I'm not sure. I I mean, Terra Water Ice Rider would certainly be really useful into Kyogre, right? Like,
Mm.
there's no getting around that fact. I think honestly, Thunder Wave on Grimmsnarl or another move to help into Kyogre specifically would be nice instead of Sucker Punch. The Sucker Punch was there to try to help a bit more versus the Calyrex Shadow Rider, Koraidon, and I just needed it less there. And I think like if Grimmsnarl could do a little bit more versus Kyogre, that would have been super helpful. So I think that's like the change I'd make.
Okay, makes sense. But yeah, you
Yeah.
did you did end up playing two more Kyogre later in the tournament and beating both of them, so the matchup didn't seem like that bad.
Yeah, my matchup into Kyogre wasn't really bad at all. It was really just the Roaring Moon that was annoying because it's just like really fast dark type damage.
Right.
One thing that I was lucky about was that I didn't play any Chenpao,
The
and
entire tournament, really? That's
yeah,
crazy.
because Chenpao can be kind of tough for Basculegion, right? Because like in the end game, Basculegion goes from god to kind of ass, and like that's or at least like you need to get like a mind game right, and that's less fun.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, so like that was one of the things I'd say that in day one, I don't know. I don't think there was any too notable things. Luca Paz, obviously a good player that I beat, but I think the matchup was just very in my favor, and I was just able to like execute well on it. Like it's the thing of like when the Kyogre is faster than the Ogre Pawn, it gets hard for the Ogre Pawn.
Yeah. Uh oh, this super bulky ogre pawn. Um no, I'm surprised this match wasn't on stream. Uh
I was too,
this,
honestly.
this is like I don't remember what game was on stream that round, but this surely had to be one of the most exciting matches of the round. Even if it didn't turn out that way in practice.
I think like it was like they're streaming an X1 round instead because like what are the odds an X2 goes on to win the tournament? Yuck, yuck, yuck. But yeah,
Oh no, man, two regional champions going at it. You gotta in the winning end, that's pretty hype. I don't know.
I'm
Uh
saying.
all right. So with that, yeah, so you got made it to day two. That's the important part. And then of course, like I said, you did end up winning out. Give me some of the highlights of your day two.
Yeah, sure. Day two, I think I really locked in terms of play and just played pretty aggressively and good. I think that's been a trend for me, like just across like Pokemon. For my entire time playing, I've made 12 top eights in the Master Division. I have won 6 of those times.
That's absurd.
Like my conversion rate's stupid, and I think it's just like when I'm locked in, I'm really, really, really locked in. Uh, yeah. Like I think like if you look at anyone else with 6 wins, they're gonna have so much more top eights than me. It's insane.
I
Yeah.
wonder. Someone go do the dig some numbers up and see who has the most who has the highest conversion rate from top eight to win. It has to be Gavin. There's no one else. It can't be.
It turns out that when you invent a really specific stat that you're good in, you're gonna be the leader. Yeah, no. So it led to a lot of like aggressive play. I think the most interesting one was I felt like I was cruising a little bit, or at least like playing very familiar matchups. I knew, okay, this is how I execute. I'm until top 16 against Jonathan Chembarker because I had actually prepped for the wrong opponent.
uh,
I
be,
go across.
because you weren't sure who's going to win their matchup or something else.
No, because when Pokédata I was refreshing it, I was looking at the bracket from Pokédata instead of like reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't have the last round of Swiss updated. And that flipped between Justin Wan and Jonathan, who would be the 5th and 4th seed.
Mm.
So I get there and I'm confused and I see this team for the first time and I panic. I'm like, what am I supposed to do into this? Like, oh my god, it's Groudon, AV, Miraidon. I just haven't prepped against this at all. So I end up getting rolled game one, and then game two, I'm able to say to look at this critically and go, in this matchup, I am never winning the weather war. The big reason for that is the Pokemon that Jonathan gets to bring here, Incin, Grimmsnarl, Miraidon, and Groudon, are way too bulky, and he is going to be able to get a Pokemon advantage, pretty much like no matter what. So I dump Basculegion for basically the first time the whole tournament and focus on having a really Ice Rider centric game plan. And ends up being super close. I think both games came down to Kyogre and the Sun hitting an Orange Impulse against the Miraidon to win the game. And yeah, I don't know. I was happy with like being able to like think on my feet and make adjustments here, but it was like there's like a real moment of panic, bad dream type vibe
Hmm.
when you go in and it's just like, oh my god, there's a test I didn't study for.
It's terrifying. So you mentioned, you have this crazy conversion rate from top eight until winning the tournament. Of course, you just made top eight with the win against Jonathan. Do you feel like that's because you prepare better or you do better with the preparation time than other players do?
Yes, I think that's the vast majority of it. Is that when I know who I'm playing, I think like I'm able to run through like games like and like figure stuff out in my head better than my opponents are. Or at least like I can come up with game plans that maybe other people like didn't anticipate or something, you know?
Hmm.
I
Uh,
think a big example of this sorry, Comfort.
no, you go.
I think a big example of this was actually my top four match against Gary. I was like prepping with people and they were like, oh my god, you gotta like cover for the Iron Jugulus Kyogre lead. And I was looking at this team and I'm like, I don't think he ever brings Iron Jugulus. I was like pretty sure that it was gonna be Ogre Ice Rider every game, and then 2 out of 3 of Urshifu, Amoonguss, and Rillaboom. Because like while Jugulus can be annoying in spots, it's so speculative,
Hmm.
you know? And I think like I think one thing I was able to do is just not be afraid of ghosts. Well, I mean, on this team it didn't have any ghosts, but like the metaphorical ghost as opposed to the literal ghost
Right.
of like I was able to counter and like deal with the stuff that my opponents would actually do, as opposed to like trying to cover nonsense that was just never coming. So yeah, no, I think the prep time is a super big part of that.
Yeah. And I was that interested my next question, which was gonna be, what do you do differently? How are you so effective at that? But it sounds like you're really good at identifying your opponent's game plans. Um, but do you have any other tips
Yeah,
for people who, any hypothetical people who might make top cut often and lose in top cut often?
I think it's important to recognize what your primary threat is. Of just playing a very simple thing of what is the primary threat that my team is saying I'm going to do, and then what was your opponent's natural response to that. So for my team, I'm threatening spread moves with a whole bunch of different types of support, right? I'm threatening spread moves next to an Amoonguss for the redirection. I'm threatening spread moves with speed control. I'm threatening spread moves, but now I'm bulkier. And so with that, it kind of becomes easy to identify what are your opponent's like counters into that. Because it's really hard to abandon your counters into like your opponent's main thing, you know? Like
Mhm.
my opponents might be willing to punt me leading Flutter Main Basculegion, you know? Because that's not the main thing I'm scared like that I'm scared of. So it's like once you identify your primary threat and your opponent's primary counter to it, then you can start to get a little meta of the leveling war of like, well, this is actually counters like their primary threat. I kind of just did that, to be honest with you, and just did like one step in the leveling war, not doing anything too crazy, and that really worked for me.
Cool.
It can also be like, yeah, sort of baiting or like priming, where like against Je, right? I was really confident that he would lead Wheezing Koraidon into me game one, primarily because I was just on stream in top eight against Justin Wan. And I think everyone in the audience was sort of like, well, why didn't he lead Koraidon Wheezing and try to like flare blitz through? Right. And so it's like I'm sort of signaling to Jeff like, hey, this is a lead I can do that you're aware of and might be my standard default lead. So it's like that made me feel very comfortable going for a really hard counter commit of Futterman Kyogre. And then in game two, I was like, if that succeeds, he's going to lead Calyrex Shadow Rider because he's saying like, oh, maybe he doesn't respect how good Calyrex Shadow Rider is into him, right? Like I'm aware of my own image, right? So of like what I am risking because I am playing team preview very aggressively. I can just totally lose on game one, but I didn't because I don't know, people aren't used to playing against someone who's willing to go all in team preview. And I think like that was a big advantage for me.
Yeah, and you put yourself in a fantastic position. Um, did you? You kind of talked about your top four in final set. Did you have any other matches that you wanted to talk about, or any other like stories you wanted to tell about this team or this tournament?
I'm trying to think. I think that's like pretty much all the main stuff. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on the channel, sharing your team. I've got the rental code on screen right now, and the paste will be in the description down below. Uh, did you have any final words or shoutouts that you want to give?
Yeah. I want to give a big first thanks to Nails, Darts, and Mezzy for all the help and prep with the team going into the event. Well, I was the only one who ended up running the team. They gave me a lot of like really valuable insights into the team, and I really couldn't have done it without their help here. I'd like to thank my incredible fiance Madhu for all of her support this weekend, and as always to Angel Miranda. May his memory be a blessing.
Yeah. Well, congratulations again on your fourth regional championship. It's a very exciting moment. And thank you again for coming on the channel. And yeah, that's going to do it from us. Thank you all for watching. And until next time, I'll see you all later.